Welcome to PubTalk. I'm Shannon Kelly. I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight. I have plenty of seats up close, so if you want to be a part of the show, you want to be up close and personal with us, please make your way to the PubTalk room. Come on in, find a seat. We'd love to have you. Thank you to Worthy for hosting us again. And of course, to Hand in Hand Productions for the multi-room stream. We're so fancy with our streaming services. Also, thank you to our PubTalk title sponsors for making this PubTalk a reality every month, and we would like to bring them up one at a time. This is one of my favorite parts of this program every time. So first up, I kind of feel like I'm alone here right now. You guys having fun? That's good. Okay, so I'm going to bring Kurt Barker up, and he's going to do a giveaway, and that ought to get your attention. Best in Krieger, Mr. Kurt Barker. What did I call you?
I think I was talking to my wife when she was calling me. I'm so sorry.
No, you're great.
Did all the moms have a good Mother's Day? Yeah? Yes? Okay, I'm seeing smiles. That makes me happy. Our house with two grown boys, kind of scattered. It's a little quieter. Traditions change, but these days, Mother's Day means shoes. So that's what I have for you, $100 to North Soles Footwear for a giveaway tonight. Yeah, Frank shops there. I need my email address up here if I could. If you, the first one to email me anything to do with AI, I'll give you the card. And an everyday object that uses AI would be great. Let's see, I do want to talk about AI tonight briefly. Before I do that, here we go. You can download, with our employment laws changing so rapidly, I thought you might like my legal update. There's my slide deck from a recent presentation to the local human resource group about changing legal laws, changing DEI developments. You can download it there for free. And then, let's talk a little bit about, as an employment attorney, we're getting a lot of Q&A, that's questions and anxiety, on AI use. And there's not a lot of rules yet. One of the clear guidelines we know is that if I'm an employer and I'm using even an outsourced vendor to screen candidates using AI, I can still be liable if their tool creates a discriminatory impact. So that's a mouthful, but example, the EEOC just took a company to task because their AI vendor, screened a couple hundred older candidates that they shouldn't have. So what do you do? I'm not one here to tell you to run from these tools. In fact, in a lot of ways, BBK, we're embracing them. But you got to ask the tough questions, like how do you audit your tool to make sure there's no discriminatory impact? What's the level of human involvement in that? Have you been accused of bias before? And then maybe my favorite lawyer question, would you please include an indemnity clause to cover our butts if you screw up? That's my favorite thing in the world. Thank you for laughing. That's the best way I can describe indemnity to a wonderful audience. So let's see. I don't have a winner yet. I'll try and give away after the next speaker. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Kurt. I know AI has been something really good for attorneys. It makes me very happy. I know you all work very hard. A lot of your work is probably boring. Okay, I'm moving on. Welcome to the stage, Jordan Smith, VLOX Systems. Jordan, how you doing?
All right, thank you. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. It's a long day. My name is Jordan Smith with VLOX Systems. We do managed cybersecurity and IT services. So big thank you to Edco for putting this on again every month, even in the beautiful weather. This is one of my favorite events to go to every month, so I'm super stoked to be here with you guys, hear what the presenters have to say. Quick little public service announcement. Who has fishing? Raise your glass if you have one. If you guys do like fishing simulations at work. And you have to look for those. Couple people. This is okay. More than I thought. So those are super fun, and we find a lot of value in doing them. Early on, we would do them silently. We would send them out, and then people would get them and fall for them, and then they would get a notice later, oh, you got tricked. And it does not go well, usually. Most people are like, oh, you're just trying to trick me. So we flipped that, and if you're considering doing this and implementing some cybersecurity awareness training, phishing simulations, all that within your business, which I recommend you do, let people know. And that does a couple of things. One is you don't make them feel like they're getting duped, right? You guys don't want to feel like you're getting duped by your employer and like you're going to get in trouble if you accidentally click on a link that they baited you with. So we don't want that. But also, if you know that you're like looking out for phishing emails, then you're looking out for phishing emails, which is exactly the behavior we want when we do that. And so it makes you scrutinize the things that are coming in and are possibly exposing you to vulnerabilities and inviting you to share your passwords and all of that. So don't get hacked. Do get some awareness training for your team. If you are a team member, ask your leadership, your IT department, hey, we should be doing this. It just generally goes better and makes a company much more like resilient to that sort of attack. So again, my name is Jordan Smith, VLOX Systems. And Kurt, are you going to give anyone $100 yet? Okay. Is it me?
No, sorry. Is it me? It's not me. Shoot.
This is so great because we have been Webfoot customers and Webfoot's a client. We love them. Luann Champion, are you here? Yay!
Report back next month what you used the gift card for, please. Jordan, I want you to know that after last month's presentation, I changed all my banking passwords. I was paying attention. All right. No, it was an inspirational phrase. Okay, up next, Emma James of Roselle Wealth Management. Come on up here, my friend.
Oh, nice. Jordan, just so you know, I always click on the cat photos. Hello, everybody. My name is Emma James. I'm a financial advisor with Roselle Wealth Management. We've been in Bend for over 25 years now, and we're just really passionate about helping business owners proactively plan for the sale of their businesses so that they can ultimately live their retirement years with confidence and purpose. I was imagining that there would be a lot of business owners in this room or folks that support them. A little show of hands, maybe? Yeah? Okay, awesome. So this question is for you. When a business owner is ready to sell, what do you think their number one priority is? Oh, yes, someone said it. Well, the clients that I speak with, they're like, we're going to get the biggest dollar amount possible, baby, right? And my response to that is, great, but you should really be focusing on how much you actually take home to your family after the transaction. And that's because of a little thing that we call taxes, right? So one of the biggest risks to maximizing the sale of your value is that big bite that Uncle Sam is going to take out of that. So we want to make sure that you are proactively planning to help mitigate those taxes. And I'm talking 2 to 3 years ahead of your business sale. Not 90 days before you close, because by then you may have missed the window to actually mitigate those taxes. So we have a process in place that helps do that. So if you would like to come talk with me, I'd love to meet with you later. This is actually not the right slide for what I was talking about tonight, but if this was correct, it would say 6% advantage, which is the process. So come learn more about it. Thanks.
Thanks, Emma. That's great advice. I love how much we learn in just a couple of moments. All right, next up, Julianne Horner, Providence Health Plan. Come on up, Julianne.
Well, hello, everyone. I come up here every month and talk to you about the national campaigns that are spotlighted for health and wellness. And this month is no different. This is Mental Health Awareness Month for May. But we both know that a month of spotlight on mental health will not be enough to change the trajectory of this pandemic of mental health. So I'm very proud to say that Providence has done some amazing work around mental health, providing programs and activities and ways to meet members right where they're at and get them the help they need. But we live in a community that needs to do more. We can do and beat this by just reaching out to our family, our friends, our neighbors, the guy next door, and do a check-in. Ask them how they are. Check in with them daily, weekly, monthly, but everyone needs to know that they matter. And so if we can do that and we have the systems set in place to provide help, we can change this trajectory. So my ask of you is make it more than May, Mental Health Awareness Month. Make it a year. Make it a commitment. And Providence has made that commitment, and we hope that you will too. Thank you.
Thanks, Julianne. I appreciate that very much. We are just so grateful for our title sponsors. How about a round of applause for the lineup? And I'm here tonight hosting the PubTalk program thanks to our MC sponsor, OSU Cascades. Oregon State University Cascades is growing for Central Oregon thanks to a 40-year grassroots community effort to bring a four-year university to the region. So join us from 4 to 6 p.m. on Tuesday, May 28th for a free community open house, and you can explore the latest progress as OSU Cascades transforms once unusable lands near the Center Bend into a thriving university campus. Attendees will take guided van tours of the land remediation work. They'll view heavy equipment used to move tons of fill and prepare it for sorting and recycling, take hard hat tours of the Student Success Center, which opens to students in winter of 2025, and view plans of the future campus with OSU Cascades planning team, as well as experts from SRG Cannon, engineers from Mall Foster Alongi, architects from OPSIS, and construction experts from Knife River, and meet representatives from Now for OSU Cascades with the Beaver Caucus, a community advocacy group, and learn how you can support OSU Cascades. This event is free, but they are requesting registration, so you can visit osukascades.edu/community-open-house. So how about another round of applause for OSU Cascades, Providence Health Plan, Roselle Wealth Management, Best and Krieger, and VLOC Systems. These partners make PubTalk a reality every month, and we're just so grateful for them. Don't love it when that happens. Okay, here I'm back. Now for an update on the economic development efforts in our region. EDCO operates under a hub and spoke model, ensuring that each community they serve has a local director advocating for traded sector business success. In the city of Redmond, this vital role is filled by Redmond Economic Development Inc.'s director, Steve Curley. Steve, come on up.
Here we go. Thanks, Shannon. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. So things are hopping in Redmond. How many of you have seen, when you come into Redmond on the south side, this large new building that's going in? Raise your hands. If you've gone to the airport, there's a massive building. It's almost too high for the airport, but they just made it in under the height. So anyway, that is a company called BaseX. They are continuing to grow. They are over 660 employees. And these are good paying traded sector jobs that we focus on every day. Right now in Redmond, we've got 25 projects in the pipeline that represent over 3,000 jobs and potential $875 million in investment, which is awesome. Get a little hand for that. All right. Some other ones that we have coming out of the ground this year are Wild Mike's Ultimate Pizza, which is a pizza manufacturer that sells pizzas into school lunch programs and also to retail stores around the country. If you haven't seen them in Fred Meyer or Winco, they are there. They're great natural pizzas. Baselite is another company that manufactures cement block, concrete type products, and they're going to be doing an expansion in Redmond this year too. A number of other projects, but it is very active. Recently, we had the Made in Bend tour here in Bend. How many of you were on the Made in Bend tour? Was that great? Yeah, that was awesome. So we have the Made in Redmond tour coming up on June 21st in the morning. We haven't announced the companies yet, so I'm not going to announce them tonight. But if you go to readyinfo.com/events, readyinfo.com/events, you can get tickets, and when you get tickets, you will be the first to know who those companies are. So sign up for that. It's going to be a great time. We've got buses. We'll bus people around to the companies, and it's always very interesting. So that is all I have tonight, because I'm going to tag team with John Stark, who's going to come up and talk a little bit about
Thanks
BBC.
for the update.
Yeah.
Redmond is jumping.
It's hopping.
I've got the new donut shop. We got Tight Knot Coffee. It's actually it's a family-run coffee. It's so good. I'm not sponsored by them, but it's so affordable too. I'm like, it actually might be cheaper for me to drive to Redmond and get a coffee, drive back to Bend.
Nobody
I
here
don't
from
know.
Starbucks, is there?
So, no,
I
I hope
anyway.
not. So thanks, Steve.
Yeah,
You're
well, we're getting
awesome.
too
How about a
close
round of
here.
applause
Anyway,
for Steve?
thanks.
You're gonna stick around?
No, I think John's going to
Okay.
come up, and I'm going to hand off the mic.
All right, so now we're going to shift to the Bend Venture Conference. How many of you have been to Bend Venture Conference before? It's a good one, is it not? So the 21st annual BVC will take place October 17th and 18th. And here to tell us a little bit more about this year's program, we're going to welcome John Stark to the stage, Edco CEO.
Thank you, Shannon. So there's a QR code there you can take a look at. Go ahead and scan it. You can get into the bendvc.com website. The dates are October 17th and 18th. How many of you have been to BVC before? Right on. So if you haven't been, you should come check it out. Obviously, we have companies pitching from various tracks. We celebrate entrepreneurship. It's a culmination of all of these pub talks year-round. September, you'll vote on one of those tracks. Typically, we have about 10 companies that are at the September Pub Talk. You get to help us narrow it to 5, so you want to come to that September Pub Talk. If you're an investor and accredited to invest in companies and you're interested in investing in BVC's fund this year, you can go to either this code or you can go to benvc.com and reach out to Brian Vieira or Jen Lynch via that website. The investor kickoff is June 12th, so it's right around the corner. So we really start this process in June for Bend Venture Conference. That's why we're sharing it here. And then also June 24th is the deadline, or excuse me, the date that we open up applications. So if you're a startup or you plan on looking for funds through the Bend Venture Conference, you can also go on to the benvc.com website, access the applications. Again, that will launch June 24th. So mark your calendars. Again, a celebration of entrepreneurship, a culmination of all of our pub talks over the year. And one of the most important and fun things part of that is the networking reception, probably the best business networking reception in all of the high desert. So hopefully you can make it. Mark your calendars. Thanks for being here tonight. Shannon, back to you.
Thanks, John. I like that you said in all of the high desert. There was a bit of a flair to that phrasing. I liked it a lot. BBC is amazing. You guys do not miss it. And it's hard to believe, but it is right around the corner. So thanks, John. I'm really looking forward to seeing which startups end up on the stage. And like you said, definitely make it to the September Pub Talk to be a part of that process. So let's give a shout out to our new EDCO members, shall we? Cascade Valuation Services, Cressa, the Lakeside Group, Roselle Wealth Management, who are here. Hey. Thank you to our new EDCO members. So your membership and support helps us create more business opportunities for local companies and more jobs for the growing number of people who want to work and live in Central Oregon. Joining EDCO as a member is an investment in creating a sustainable economy for generations to come. There are QR codes all over the place, like QR codes they just really made a strong comeback, did they not? But here it is, a QR code. You can reach out this way, but you can also just make contact with Team EDCO to learn more, and we'd love to have you. So moving on to tonight's presentation, brought to you by Umpqua Bank. Umpqua Bank is a proud supporter of the EDCO's Pub Talk series. At Umpqua Bank, local bankers proudly serve our community by providing the expertise to help build and maintain meaningful relationships. Umpqua Bank, better together. And Sensiba. Learn about Sensiba's innovative sustainability initiatives led by a dedicated team that aims to foster resilience and growth in a rapidly changing world. Visit sensiba.com for more. We are so excited to welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Mark Drummond, to the stage. Dr. Drummond is a successful entrepreneur, inventor, and technical manager who has scaled and successfully exited numerous startups and was responsible for building a brand new team at Apple focused on AI and machine learning tools for building characters in mixed reality. Mark was on the founding team for Siri and has managed machine learning projects with multi-million-dollar operating budgets. Welcome, Dr. Drummond.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say thanks first to the EDCO folks for making this possible. And my goal is in about half an hour to give you a little bit of an overview of AI, more than you get from the current headlines in the news. This quote gives you a sense of what I think about ChatGPT and large language models and the transformer architecture and neural networks that support it. These are pretty fabulous things. We are not there. We're not done. These are nice incremental steps. We're not on the edge of a transformation. We're not all going to be transported into space by aliens for recognizing the genius of some architecture. These are good things. They're incremental things, but we're not done. So I felt the need to quote Paul Simon there. So I'm going to start with, oh, I think we skipped it's just an entire slide missing. Well, let's just keep going. So I'm going to start with a story, a cast of characters. There's 4 people, and it's in the 1800s. And you think, why would the 1800s feature in a talk about AI? Well, you'll see in a second. So first we have Lord Byron. Actually, there's a number of slides missing. There's a number of slides missing here. We will not have a cast of 4 characters. And it'll be a surprise to all of us exactly how many show up here. I'm not sure why that is. Lord Byron was the father to Ada Lovelace. Ada is going to come up in a second. And mostly in this, he was a hero to the Greeks, and he lived a short life because he died fighting for the Greeks for reasons that I don't understand. But he hosted a memorable dinner party in Geneva. The person that we're supposed to see here first is Charles Babbage. Charles Babbage was an inventor in the 1800s, and he built what is now considered the first technically correct digital computer, made out of brass, out of gears. It was programmed with punched cards, really. The punched card insight came from the Jacquard loom. In the loom, a card had holes in it, and the holes, when it was inserted to the machine, dictated which pins would fall. If there was card, no pin would fall. If there's a hole, a pin would fall. And it was the whole pattern in the card that determined what the loom produced in terms of the weave. So he took that idea and he turned it into an idea for programming a computer. The first one was called the difference engine. He built that, it worked. And it'll be a surprise to all of us. Ada, she is there, excellent. She was a mathematician, particularly impressive at that time because women were not allowed to be formally educated in anything, never mind math. So she was self-taught, connected with Babbage, became, by all accounts, a first-rate mathematician, and she is considered the world's first programmer. In fact, you may know of a programming language called Ada. This is where it comes from. It's Ada Lovelace. So she wrote programs with punched cards for the difference engine. The analytical engine was never completely built. Actually, just as a quick aside, if you go to the Science Museum in London, or you go to the Computer History Museum in Mountain View in California, they have fully reconstructed versions of the difference engine. It is beautiful. It's amazing, and you can see how the punch cards worked. So, world's first programmer. And now we come to Mary Shelley. Many of you will know from like junior high reading, she wrote Frankenstein, right? Which is widely considered the world's first science fiction novel. All right, how do these things all fit together? Well, at Lord Byron's estate in Geneva in the early 1800s, they played this game, which was common in Victorian times, which someone threw out a prompt. Not a prompt to ChatGPT, but a prompt. And it's widely considered that the prompt was something like this: how might we build something that thinks? And of course, we bring our biases and our intuitions and our tools to the question. And what's really interesting to me is Mary Shelley said, take a bunch of previously thinking meat, bolt it together, apply it a lot of electricity, which is, of course, where the more power Igor, or more power Igor, depending on which version of Frankenstein you like, comes from. And maybe we could make a thinking machine by taking something that was thinking and sticking it back together. Well, Ada Lovelace had a slightly more sophisticated interpretation, which was maybe we could write a program that would think. Just consider that for a second. The world's first programmer was also the world's first person to think about programming computers to emulate intelligence. That's kind of wild to me. So she thought about this a lot in the 1800s, and she came up with what is now called the Lady Lovelace objection to AI. I will read it. She said that a computer program has no pretensions whatever to originate anything. It can do whatever we know how to order it to perform. It can follow analysis, but has no power of anticipating any analytical relations or truths. In the 1800s, she was thinking about the limits of programming and the limits of computation with respect to what you can build. That's astounding. Now, I disagree with this, and I will happily disagree over a beer with anyone. I think she's wrong, but that doesn't matter. She was thinking about this, and she had a very good argument. All right, we skip forward into modern AI. This is widely considered the birth of modern AI. In 1956, John McCarthy, later a professor at Stanford, brought together a bunch of people, and he said, let's assemble and discuss and proceed on the basis of the conjecture that every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can, in principle, be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. It's a bold statement. I also think it's wrong because it says simulate. Does a frog simulate thinking because its neurons operate differently than me? Well, I think the frogs think frog-like thoughts. I think Mark-like thoughts. We're built differently. It's not simulating me, I'm not simulating it, it is what it is. But let's skip past that, that's another beer, if we want to get there. It's gonna be a long night. And then, just want to point out that in 1959, Samuel wrote a program which was considered a darn good checker player. Now, no competition was ever held to prove that it was the best in the world, but really competent checker players at the time sat down, played this thing, and were beaten by it. That's an amazing thing. Can you imagine with a computer of that era writing that program? What he innovated on were two kinds of learning. In the work that he did, he called it memoization. Nowadays, we'd call it caching. Basically, you look at something and you say, I've seen this before. I've been to this movie before. I know how it ends. I don't need to do the work again. I've already done that work. That's pretty cool. And it would also play itself in its own mind. Do computers have minds? It had a program. It would play against itself to get better so that when it played a person, it would be better than it would have been had it not played against itself. So it's running simulations in its own head to improve at the game. This is in 1959. We as a species are not just turning our thoughts to AI today. So this is a big topic, and I just want to communicate one aspect of it to you. It will inform a lot of what happens in the next 10 to 20 years. In the 80s and 90s, there was this big, almost religious debate between what you call symbolists and connectionists. So symbolists leaned into algebra. They leaned into first-order logic. They leaned into writing down facts and then building an inference engine, which you could crank a handle on, and it would produce more facts from those facts. So basically, the symbolist style of AI says, take something that you know how to do, something that you can articulate, write down those rules, and then we can automate it. The connectionist approach says, there's a number of things that we're good at that we don't know why we're good at. We can't even explain how we do them. When I look at my grandmother, how do I recognize that it's her? How do I recognize the letter or number 0? How do I know that that truck is coming at me and I should get out of the way? These are really hard things to automate. So symbolists had a run at representing knowledge and representing the rules that surround that knowledge. And most of the practical work was so-called symbolist. And it's important to understand in today's environment that it's partly a revenge of the nerds kind of scenario where finally connectionists are having their day. And one of the things that you're going to see going forward is a reunification of these, and you're going to have so-called neuro-symbolic architectures, and that's going to be the big innovation in the next 5 to 10 years. So there were a lot of great applications here. I worked on some of them. Let's say like scheduling. Let's imagine that you got a fab, which is a semiconductor manufacturing facility, and the question is, what wafers do you release and when, and what pieces of equipment do you do them on and when? It's like, I don't know. That was me. Well, you can automate that, and you can put a bunch of rules in a system, and it can do kind of goal-directed simulation. And if not optimal, it's going to be at least better than some person going, I don't know. And a lot of these systems were built. Supply chain optimization. I got factories all over the world. What do I make, where, in what quantities? How do I ship it, to where, under what constraints, so that it arrives in a warehouse or on someone's doorstep, subject to certain timing and cost constraints. These are things that we know how to do. We can write them down, and we did it a lot, and it worked extremely well. Product configuration. Oh, if you get the 4-cylinder engine, you can get this transmission, but not that one. The 6-cylinder engine comes with this transmission. You can't get that wheel size with this. These are all rules. We know it. We built these things, so we can write these down. We can automate them really effectively. Now, just as a quick historical note, John McCarthy, the guy who convened that conference that I mentioned in 1956, also invented Lisp, which is really arguably the world's oldest programming language. Technically, it stands for List Processing Language, but if you've ever seen a program, you will understand why some people roll their eyes and say it stands for Lost in Superfluous Parentheses, because it is ugly in the extreme. But it's also kind of beautiful, mathematically. And then to extricate people from the mud of low-level programming languages, lots of knowledge representation tools came about. Key, which is the knowledge engineering environment, ART, KnowledgeCraft, Ops5. These are all systems for letting people who know manufacturing or who know short interval scheduling write down what they know so that the system can do it. Now, this is not a blotch of bits on the screen. This is actually an algorithm, A star. You say, what's an A star? Well, A star goes back before the 80s, but it is the route planning algorithm that is in your phone and in your car, and it's the thing when you say, I am here, and I need to get there, and I don't want to cross the bridge, it is the algorithm that gets you there. So we all use this kind of AI all the time. The problem is, if we know how to do it, it's not AI. It's only AI until we know how to do it. So a lot of these things just get swept under the rug in history because you say, well, they're easy. You know, they weren't easy, and they're still valuable. It's still AI. So I had the honor of working on systems that sequence all the American assets on Mars. We built systems for the Mars Explorer rovers, which is Spirit and Opportunity, and the Mars Science Lab, which is called something else. Doesn't really matter here. The important thing, just sort of looking at these pictures going, wow, they're out of scale, because this here, the MER rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, about the size of a card table, and the Mars Science Lab is the size of an SUV. And this flat plane here is a solar cell. So these things are driven by solar electric. It's batteries charging. And the Mars Science Lab is driven by what's called an RTG. It's not a nuclear reactor in the traditional sense. It's a chunk of plutonium-232, which is just hot. And if you package it in the right way, you can get a current out of something that's just hot. So we build these systems, all rule-based, which take a scientific objective, like I would really like to have the rock abrasion tool on that rock at this angle, subject to blah, blah, blah constraints. And you think about it differently if you're driving a solar-powered vehicle, because when the sun goes down, all the electronics freeze, and you have to keep enough power in the battery overnight so that you can keep the circuits warm. And that's not a problem for the Mars Science Lab. It's got a chunk of plutonium in there. It's just always warm. Things don't freeze. So the rules that we put together are different for the different vehicles. And it worked great. No deep learning involved. There was a lot of machine learning also in the 80s and 90s. The wonderfully named, I need a pause, Iterative Dichotomizer 3. There's a reason you haven't heard of it. And support vector machines, explanation-based learning, come up with by a friend of mine, Steve Minton. Evolutionary algorithms, you've also heard of genetic algorithms. These are all pretty fabulous inventions, but they all require manual feature identification. They all require the person who's building the system to say, here are the distinctions in the world that matter. I'm going to give you those distinctions, and then you can learn over top of that. Here's where we come into modern deep learning. This is a huge but simple idea. You all look at this. I guarantee you there's not a person in this room who doesn't know that that's 504192. How do you know that? I don't know. You were taught it. Maybe you're like me, you were hit with a big stick if you got it wrong. But there's ways to build computer systems that learn these things from a crap ton of examples. So let's look at this. This is a table of a bunch of handwritten digits. Say in the top left, it's the number 0. Well, what if we had the number, well, we had that image. I'm just going to call them bitmaps. Let's imagine these are bitmaps. And each one is labeled. So we get that loopity thing, and we get a label. This is the number 0. Next one over, we get that thing, and we get, this is the number 4. So we have a bunch of labeled training examples. What could we do with that? Well, the big insight here is you could build a neural network that has input layers, hidden layers, and output layers such that you push in the samples, and you hold the output given the label. So we're given this thing, I don't know what it is, but we're told it's a 5. Now, let's not worry about what the network does just now. It takes things and it combines data in certain ways defined by the semantics of these nodes. We need to find, roughly speaking, weights for this network so that provided this input, it produces that output. Now, for the technically minded among us, you see this is what's called a one-hot vector. It's a vector, it's 0 to 9. It's one hot because there can only be one thing in that vector. It can't be both the number 3 and the number 7. It's going to be 3 or 7. So one hot just means one of these things is going to be picked out. So we provide the image as input, the classification is output, and the question is, how do you adjust the weights in that network so that reliably, when you provide an input, you get the right output? I want you to hear this because this is the core of it, and it's kind of magic. Stochastic gradient descent. Well, stochastic is Greek, means random. Gradient, there's a slope. Descent, we're going down a slope. It's actually super, super simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that network, and we're going to keep looping through it, changing the weights until the outputs are right. What does it mean for an out to be right? Well, we've got the input bitmap, say it's 4, and we get the output, and it's not right. There's an error. There's an error between what we want to see and what we do see. We want to reduce that error to be 0. So we're reducing an error, and how do we do it? We hill climb. Imagine that the error between your current output and the target output is the height that you are on a hill. And you look around, you want to go down, because down is better. Down is towards 0. Down is towards sea level. So you take a step down, and you take a step down. Well, you might end up in a little valley that is not at 0. And that's where the stochastic comes in. You will, with some probability, choose a next step that's worse than where you are. That's it. That's all of modern deep learning in one slide. Now, why does it work? It's not clear. Like the universe is kind to us. Or maybe my own theory is we only exist as humans because our brains are able to do something like this. And if it was not possible, we wouldn't be here. So the fact that we're here means this is computable using these kinds of techniques. That's my personal theory. That's another beer. So why is this deep learning? Well, it's because multiple layers, input, hidden layers, not just one, could be many, and then the output layer. Now here's the really cool thing. The lower layers turn out to learn features in the input, and progressively higher layers learn how to combine them. So it might be, I need to do, in venture pitches, this is called puppetware. So I have this module which passes them out. Yeah. So we might have a low-level feature, which is a vertical line, and another one, which is another line. And then you learn above that if they touch like this, that's a key feature. And then up and up and up. It's very clever. So higher levels learn feature combinations. And the brilliant thing here is it's all automated. You just provide, you need to be careful with the statistics of training and evaluation. And you get into terms like precision and recall to make sure that you're not overfitting. And if your data set drifts, then it's non-stationary. So it's not trivial, but the core of it is not complicated. It always bothers me when people say, oh, this is really complicated. It's just not. So these are bitmaps. This is structural data. People worked way back in the 80s and the 90s on time-varying data. What's time-varying data? Like language. Language is a sequence of words. Audio, audio in. It's a sequence of sounds and frequencies. So people have worked on recurrent neural networks, RNNs, my favorite goofiest term of all time, long, short-term memory, LSTMs, which are ways of putting neural networks to work on temporal sequences. And those worked okay, but they were all blown away in 2017 by a paper from Google, which Google itself ignored, called Attention is All You Need. And the idea here is simple, but really subtle. And I encourage you, and if you follow up and I send you some links, there's some things that really explain this. But the idea is use machine learning to learn what combination of things in the input actually matters in getting a good answer. And if you do that correctly, you get this so-called transformer neural net architecture. Not a transformer that takes 110 volts and gives you 12. It's a transformer because it takes an input and it transforms it in parallel over time. And that's why these things work so well on GPUs, and that's why your NVIDIA stock has done so well, because it all parallelizes beautifully. It's not a sequential computation. It all happens all in parallel. Very cool. So large language models, or LLMs, use transformers to do their magic. You say, okay, what is this magic? Why does it work so well? All right, text is a long sequence of words. Not technically words, they're really tokens, but let's not worry about that. We'll just call them words for now. And an LLM is just a predictor of the n+1th word. Given n, or nth in here, given n-1 words, it says, what's the next most likely word, given all the evidence I have, which is basically everything the human race has ever written, because they've crawled the entire web. So they have very good statistics for this. Now, this varies. The input window can be different, but at one point in time, it was 3,000 words or tokens. So all the LLM is doing is saying, given those 3,000 words, what's the most likely 3,001st word? That's it. And you say, really? I can have a conversation with this thing and it feels like it's an intelligent creature? That is it. It's just statistics of word likelihood given some context. It's astounding that it works so well. And why does it work? No one knows. People who tell you they know are liars. They don't know. There's a new, and this I find both exciting and really disappointing, empirical experimental methodology surrounding these things. Just think about it for a second. It's like, imagine we built bridges, and we said, why has that one stayed up? I don't know. You drive across it. No, I'm not going across it. You go across it. Well, let's send enough people across until it falls over. No, I don't think so. Like, we know why these bridges stay up. Whereas here we're building these things, and we're saying, why'd that work? I don't know. So we're like doing computational versions of X-rays for these things to say, well, I don't know, you pull that thing out and see what happens. Or it reminds me of the old, what's that? Oh, I shouldn't do this on the fly. What's that movie? Buckaroo Banzai in the 8th Dimension. You remember that at the beginning? Then he's doing the brain surgery. He says, don't tug on that. You don't know where it goes. It's exactly that. Don't tug on that. So moving into risks. It really bothered me to say, well, the species is done. I saw Terminator. I know how this story is. No, just stop. Now, you can say launch on warning, and I worked in things related to this, where a computer decides whether or not to launch a nuke. I think that's just a bad idea. But if you're going to hook computers up to launching nukes, you should be using this stuff, not the old symbolic rule-based systems. Ooh, look, a flock of geese. Launch. Sunlight reflecting off that cloud in a way that I hadn't seen before. Launch. These are not made-up examples, right? We've de-escalated over many decades critical launch sequences where computers said, go. And people had the moxie to intervene and say, I don't think so. So if you're going to do launch on warning, for God's sakes, do it using one of these systems, not the old school thing. But I recommend not hooking computers up to nukes anyway. So I don't think that's an existential risk. Unemployment risks, I don't mean to understate it, but these are generational things. So if you're a welder in Detroit in the 70s and you had a very nice paying job on a production line and someone came along with a robot that could weld better than you, that sucked. But if you worked for Ford and they looked after you or they retired you early to give you a payout, these are manageable sorts of things. The invention of the printing press by Gutenberg put a lot of typesetters out of work. Do we train our kids today how to be typesetters? Of course not. So these are generational things. They come and go. They're not easy, but I think as a species we can manage them. This, and was it Kurt? Kurt at the outset was speaking to this. This is a real risk. I'd like to buy that house. No. Why? No? Did I say no? I meant no. Am I too white, too black, too old, too young? Training to female? What is it? What do you not like about me that made you say no? We can't tell you, just no. That is a serious risk. Or police. Oh, we're going to pull you in for questioning. Why? Can't tell you. an alarm went off somewhere. How about some explanation for that? Can't do that. That's a real risk. So, moving towards the close, you'll be happy. This is not going to be the rapture. We're not going to be taken by aliens. LLMs are really cool. The transformer architecture is a piece of computational mathematical beauty. When you get your head around it, you go, oh, and then you move on. It's really nice, but it's not everything. We've got a lot of progress to make. This drives me a little crazy. You hear people say this all the time. More data, more compute. A city the size of Bend that is nothing but chips and server farms, and then we'll have it. It's like, no, you won't. No, you won't. There's so many problems. These are weird little statistical traces through language, and culturally, we're led to believe that something that can speak must be smart because we're used to people that are smart speaking well. These are, maybe heard the term stochastic parrots. They're not smart. They can't do analogical reasoning. They can't do temporal reasoning. They can't do planning. So we are not there. We got a lot of work to do. So they're cool. If you're familiar with Kuhn, famous philosopher of science, wrote this book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. We have normal science. We have revolutionary science. This is a revolution. Boom. Step into a whole new space. And then we paper it out, and we fill it out, and then we run into problems. And those problems will cause new innovations. So we are not there. It's a great revolution, but it's not the end of the road. So some recommendations. If you work in a business that deals with text or images, you should be thinking about how to use this stuff because it is life-changing. It can be business-changing. It's dirt cheap. You can start experimenting today. You don't even have to tell anyone. You just start playing with it. At a certain point, you'll start getting ideas. Just go out and talk to your colleagues and your employees for how LLMs can be used. Draw for yourself, though, a 2x2 matrix. Say, high risk, low risk, low cost, high cost. Go for the low cost, high impact. So high impact, low impact, low cost, high cost. Go for the high impact, low cost quadrant first. It always astounds me how many people go for the most expensive and lowest payoff thing they can find to begin with. Just organize your thinking around that. And I would encourage you, don't say, how can this technology allow me to get rid of people? Say instead, how can this technology let me take my existing people and make them better? Make them more customer support, improve my customer experience. Think about growth, not reduction, and you'll be on an interesting path. And when people talk to you about deep learning, woo, transformers, LLMs, say, I know what those are. They're all based on, and here's your great party line, stochastic gradient descent, and you have just ended the conversation. So if you want any of these resources, thanks. Drop me a line. I have like 20, 30 things. There are videos and tutorials, and some are nice high-level journalistic things that are just fun to read. Some are like deep dives in why transformers work the way they work. And apart from that, thank you.
Dr. Drummond, this was awesome. How about another round of applause? Oh, we'll do some Q&A. I want to compliment you on how accessible you made this talk. And I also want to say there were times when you were going really into it and I was like, oh, yes, but inside it was blank. So I'm sure there will be some questions. We are also 3 beers deep in your talk, so
those are promissory beers.
We're in a situation. I'm curious, this question's way out there, but I'm curious if, I'm sure there's people trying to apply some of this to Alzheimer's dementia patients. Is there anyone specific that you're kind of interested in or hearing about or curious about?
So let me answer that in a very political way by avoiding it completely. No, I'm gonna do a detour, which might make you think I have one of those conditions, but I will come back to it. I'm a big fan of the idea of AI being a computational orthotic. That is, if I lose my hand in a threshing machine because I'm throwing bales of hay, first I see a surgeon, then I see a physiotherapist, and finally I see an occupational therapist who comes up with some fitments for my hand so that I can still, against all experience, throw bales of hay. So they look at what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and they build systems around my perimeter that help me do what I want to do in life. And there's some things that you might be able to automate, but I don't want them automated. And there's other things that I do want automated. So I'm really encouraging people, when they embrace these tools, to think of them as cognitive orthotics and ask people, human-centered, say, what do you want done? How can we help you? And I'm not familiar with any specific research in Alzheimer's, but I think it's going to come.
Yeah, that was a beautiful response. Thank you. Questions from the audience? Yes, all the way in the back. She
Thank you.
absolutely loved your talk. And she's on fire with AI. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So she. Oh, God, I want to answer this question. Okay, so she asked ChatGPT, what are people good for? It responded by spitting back out her program. So she's asking to you, in the face of all of this incredible technology, what are people good for? And to go one step further, how do we leverage the people, the culture, the work stuff? How am I doing? Pretty good? What is the work culture? Okay, what would be the most dynamic work culture combining people with AI?
Right.
Yeah.
I say don't automate it because you can, and this might be a very pointy-headed way of thinking about things, but if you think about the Gene Roddenberry world of Star Trek, what's happened? Energy is free, food is free, education is free. What do people do? They better themselves. They engage with other humans. They write poetry that makes them happy. Not because they're going to be better some machine, because it fulfills them. They build relationships with other people. They do these human things, not because they're better or worse than a machine, because they make them feel good and they make them contribute to a society. So we don't have free energy, we don't have fusion, but I tend to think of the automation that these tools represent as feeding into that way of thinking about things. So don't automate it just because you can. Like, I might not be a particularly good date from my partner, but I don't want to automate that. I want to take her out. Right.
So oof.
Yeah,
She's
I don't think
pointing.
it is.
I want to give a round of applause for your answer because that was incredibly beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's pointing out.
Okay.
Yes, I think you have to buy us all a beer
Okay.
now, actually, ma'am. She says, people dream, they create, but like, is the human mind going extinct? Like, we have to move beyond looking to the past for the answers, which, yeah, we really do. But I think that young people are doing something different. So, what response?
I guess I have two answers. One is, this technology is really, really simple compared to you. You have reflection and analogy, and you can solve problems and think about ways and things that none of this machinery can. And think about the human brain. 3 pounds of fat. I'm going to point at my own head. Fat. The brain is fat, 3 pounds. It takes about 20 watts to run. And it can do the equivalent of 12 exaflops operations. That's, what is that? 12 zeros per second. So that many floating point operations per second in a 20-watt, 3-pound lump of fat. We do not know how to do that. You are special and unique, and maybe in 100 years we will have computers that can replicate that, but not for a long time. And even then, I think there's something special about being a person that will make us valuable.
Yeah, I agree. ChatGPT can't give you a lightning fast comedy-based response, can it?
Oh,
Haven't seen that happen.
it could do much better.
Come on. Nobody's laughing at ChatGPT. Okay, yes, you, sir.
Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Incredibly inspiring.
Right.
I have a 7-year-old who is super interested in Legos
Love
and
it.
art and
Yeah.
the world around him, and I want to give him the information,
Yeah.
exposure to these powerful tools in appropriate ways. How do we think about the next generation?
Yeah, that's great.
Kids who are going to emerge into consciousness of the world with this stuff, then I'm a believer in it. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I love this question. Thank you. He has a 7-year-old who is interested in Legos and is very engaged, and he wants to know about AI. And he's wondering what your thoughts are on how to expose him and show him this and what you think the next generation is going to do.
I thought, by the way, you were repeating this because I was hard of understanding. and then I realized, oh, no, it's... okay, right. 'Cause I heard him, you know.
You are doing great.
Okay, thank you.
You are doing
Thank you,
great.
yeah. I'll answer Herbert now. What I would say is find things that your son really likes, like Lego, and find ways to use these tools to engage that excitement. So, for example, you could show something that he likes, like a baseball glove, and say, let's make this out of Lego. How would we do that? And show him the tools, but now you can take your iPhone, you can do a 3D photogrammetry scan, you build a computational solid model, you could load that in, you say to one of these tools, rebuild that for me in Lego. And then you can take that and you go to the Lego people and they will print you those bricks, and it comes back, and then you can assemble it and you go, holy cow, I just rebuilt my Lego, my baseball glove in Lego. So I would say find things that excite him and find ways to take that excitement and channel it through some of these tools.
Brilliant. Okay, are we okay to take another question? Yeah, okay, I'm going to take another question. I'm going rogue. Okay, I'm taking another question. It's going to be you.
Curious, what does the front line of WorldStage look like?
What does the front line of WorldStage look like?
Thank you. I didn't even have to ask you to. So WorldStage is a company that I'm working on from here in Bend. Our thesis is that augmented reality is pretty cool, but it's too hard to build fairly crappy experiences. So at Apple, I led the team that built that thing that ships with the Apple Vision Pro. It's called Experience Dinosaurs. We spent a lot of money, many, many months, worked with Jon Favreau to bring that to life. I want to create something that allows a 12-year-old boy to say happy birthday to his mom with a puppy that she looks at through her iPhone, appears on her kitchen table, is sitting beside a little inkwell, looks at her, stumbles into the inkwell, and then with its feet writes out happy birthday mom on the table. And I want to make it possible for that kid to do it by just typing in happy birthday mom and hitting send. That's what WorldStage is.
Let's take another question. Ooh. Okay, this. This is fun. This could be like a whole graphic novel, I think. Okay, we're going to use AI to start to outpace traditional thinking, and how do you see that playing out in politics or in you said government, or as it goes.
So
Purely subjective.
What do you mean by traditional thinking? It's been clear for many, many decades that we as creatures of reason are not particularly good at finding optimal solutions to things. So with respect to the stresses and strains in a bridge, or how buildings respond to wind and earthquakes, we're not particularly good. So we set up tools to make us better at that. So that's traditional thinking, and then there's these closed form sorts of analyses tools. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about? I want to make sure I understand the...
You spoke about creator, just an example.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of room for... So if you look at what Google through DeepMind did in terms of predicting protein folding, that was an unsolved problem for decades. No one knew how to do it. Now they've basically predicted every protein and how it folds. They just know that. I think that's an amazing thing. If we start to map out human genome, the way your body works and mine could be quite different, and a drug that would be super beneficial for you could kill me, and vice versa. The individual activation pathways for different people are quite different. So I think this style of reasoning at scale offers up, for an example, way outside traditional thinking, personalized medicine of a type that we've never even had the resources to consider. So you spit in a tube, and they say, oh, you have a predilection for this. We will manufacture a vaccine for you, which causes your body's own immune system to preemptively strike against that thing. We couldn't have done that before, so that's way outside traditional thinking, but it's a much bigger question than I know how to answer.
That'd be like a whole six-pack.
Done.
Okay. Wow. How about a round of applause? I know we could go all night. Keep it going for Dr. Mark. Wow. I mean, I'm a paper and pencil gal all the way, but that got me excited. So thank you for being here with us and for sharing all your wisdom. And thanks for your wonderful questions. We really went many places with the questions. I love it. So now on to our first company pitch presentation sponsored by BBSI, serving Central Oregon businesses for over 20 years. Barrett Business Services prides itself on fostering strategic partnerships with its clients, acting as an extension of their internal HR departments. By gaining an in-depth understanding of clients' businesses, cultures, and objectives, BBSI provides proactive guidance and support to help drive organizational success, reduce costs, and grow revenue for businesses of all sizes. And of course, COCC, Central Oregon Community College, is a proud sponsor of EDCO's PubTalk. Did you know that COCC offers a week-long Spanish language immersive program that can help you improve your Spanish in the workplace? Central Oregon Summer Spanish Immersion, or COSSI, will take place June 24th to 27th on COCC's Redmond campus. Take your Spanish language skills to the next level with 4 full days of instruction, facilitated group conversations, and cultural programming. Many local employers will pay for the cost of this program, so ask your company's HR department or visit cocc.edu/COSSI to learn more. Next up, we are thrilled to invite to the PubTalk stage Dr. James Kelly, co-founder and CEO of Entwyne. Entwyne is setting out to create a different way to capture digital memories by leveraging AI. The company uses multiple small, large language models to direct, capture, organize, and produce multi-perspective stories from participants and fans at celebrations and sporting events. Please put your hands together to welcome Dr. James.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I'm so excited to be here today. It is really tough to follow that because that is so smart, and the first 2 rows just left. So if we could just maintain staying from moving on from this, that'd be fantastic. All right. So I am James Kelly, as Shannon so kindly said. Last time I presented, Shannon, which was 4 years ago, in the same red pants, which is amazing at my age, you actually made a great joke about your dad and the last name Kelly and Kelly. So I actually had a bet with my co-founder that you were going to make another joke about that, and I've now lost. So thank you. Yeah. So anyhow, I am so excited tonight to share with you a different way of capturing and collaborating around life's most important memories. I don't have the clicker. Oh, here it is. All right, great. So I'm James Kelly, along with my co-founder, Evan Sigvalson. Evan, say hi in the back. There we go. Thank you, Evan. Now, combined, Evan and I have over 40 years of experience across tech, marketing, e-commerce, and for this particular product, storytelling. We're a great team to solve this problem. But I want to start with a story, or at least frame a problem that you all probably have. Think of any event you've been to. Any event. Whether it's a wedding, it's an anniversary, it's a birthday, you're running your first marathon, and somebody inevitably says to you, hey, I have a link for a Dropbox. Send me all your photos, all your videos, and I'll produce something at some point down the road, and maybe I'll send it out to you. And what's great about that is if Dropbox was amazing, it would take all that in. It would say, hey, here's the context of your story. Hey, here are the most important videos and photos to tell the best story you want to tell. Oh, hey, let me produce this in a way that you can post in TikTok or the 20-minute video for YouTube. But Dropbox doesn't do that. And so we're really excited about creating this different way. For the last 18 months, and Mark, I'm sure you would definitely drum this beat. Technology has moved so fast. And what was impossible before is possible now. And so Evan and I are creating and using multiple small, specialized large language models. So we're taking these big LLMs and we're specifying to do a particular task, and we're giving it basically parameters to not go beyond. And then we're using a social graph to say, what can we discover? What are the stories that we can find? And so Entwyne is creating an automatic AI-generating system that discovers, that directs, that organizes, collaborates, and produces stories at scale for you. So what does that look like? Well, it's an app in the App Store. So the first thing you do is you come in and you say, hey, here's my story. In this example, we're running a marathon. They want to know who's in the marathon, what's it about, who are the key characters. And the storytelling agent then speaks to the scene agent. And the scene agent says, here are the scenes that you should capture with video and photo. And the scene agent then goes, okay, well then I need to figure out what tasks, which people that you should invite using a QR code, using text message, using email, to capture those bits of media to create moments. And these moments are analyzed. Text, they're analyzed through context, text, transcribed, and they create seamlessly through collaboration a multi-perspective storytelling agent that allows you to put it in a TikTok video, 20-second if that's what you want it to do, the 20-minute wedding video, it doesn't matter. It has the ability through a simple chat function to create the type of media that you think will tell the story that you want to tell because you've told it what you want it to know, and it does it automatically. But where are we starting? We're starting with sporting events. So the question we get is, well, why sporting events? There's multiple reasons why sporting events. First, the amount of stories that are told for your first marathon, or a cancer survivor, or in memoriam, or the family that's done an event for 10 years straight together. All of that can be captured and directed and organized through our system. Secondly, the idea of that these events, they spend about $3,000 or more per event, the event companies, to capture these. And they're always generic. They're always just a marketing tool, but they can't do a lot with them. Because guess what? They go in the Dropbox file. And thirdly, and most important for us, all these personal stories help us train our specialized large language models on what the best stories are for your life and anybody's life. So, this is a huge market. According to Active.com, there's over 350,000 endurance events a year. You can look at the numbers, so I'll save you all those. But in reality, what that means for us is that's 350,000 opportunities to help an event company capture better stories, to help an event company work, partner, produce personalized videos for their participants, so participant engagement. And finally, where it really helps for them is the renewal. So imagine when the event's coming up, Cascade Lakes Relay is coming up down the road. Imagine them being able to send a video of you last year and your team doing that event. How jazzed would you be? How many memories would come flying back? So, in the traditional pitch model, I'm going to show you the market opportunity. And so we're focused today on 29,000 events here in the US, of 10K plus running events, triathlons, or cycling events. This results in an $87 million SOM, so about $3,000 per event is what we would charge. But what we're really after is the B to B to C, because we think the value is in the B to C. But to get there fast, to train our model, we go B to B. And so we sell to event companies. The event companies then, in turn, offer this to their participants. Now, we're testing out whether participants pay for it or it's free. But what we expect to happen is that 5% will install this for personal use, resulting in an additional $18 million in a secondary SOM, or an adjusted SOM of $105 million for just this tiny sliver. Oops, went too far. Going the wrong way. How do we go backwards? All right, so where are we at now? Well, we're very lucky to have a partnership with Cascade Lakes Relay. So they're going to beta test us later in June. with 119 teams to collect 119 unique stories across 2,000 athletes. And we're also in conversations with what's called Y Event Racing. But the one that's really exciting for me is the start to finish event management, where they do 4 major marathons a year: St. Louis, Memphis, Atlanta, and Charlotte. That's 50,000 plus people who can touch our solution. Wrong direction again. We'll get there. All right. The part that is partially just guessing, partially just estimating at this stage of the game, but where we see it going based on our projections and our estimates is that in 2027 we'll be $3.9 million in revenue from a B2B to B2C market. But more importantly, that's going to be 1 million plus individuals that will touch our solution over this time period. Now, the competitive landscape, we kind of think falls in 2 different categories. We've got status quo. Google Drive, Dropbox. It's what we know. It's not convenient. It's stuck there. You never see it again. Unless you have an Aura frame. Anyone have an Aura frame, by the way? Nobody has an Aura frame. Thank you. They're amazing, right? They're amazing. But the other one is technology. NVIDIA is one of them. This is today's way they're thinking about using Gen AI. Go into a chatbot and create a video. I want a young kid riding a horse in the desert. It will create that video. The problem, it's inauthentic. We're about authenticity. The other one is a company called, damn it. The other one is called StoryShop. And StoryShop has raised over $6 million in the last 3 years. The problem with StoryShop is they're web-based. They expect you to sit in front of your couch with a computer in front of you, and it asks you questions that way. That's not how the world works. We're a mobile-first society. Our technology is mobile-first. All right, so this is where we're going. Because see, events is to train the models. But what we see the future as is beyond events. See, we think the technology of where it's going is going to be so smart, it's going to know it's your birthday, Nick. Hey, and Nick, your friends are going to be there. We're going to ask your friends to take photos of this event because probably you won't do it, right? It's going to be so smart, it's going to understand when, who, what videos, photos need to be taken to tell the story of your life, to create your memories forever, regardless of the category. So we're focused on being the solution that grows with the individual along life's journey. So from a funding perspective, we're seeking angels right now as we get through the beta phase and move on to raising our pre-seed or seed round, depending on traction. And that is it. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, let me know.
I want to start by saying I almost wore red pants tonight, and I am deeply regretting it right now. I am deeply regretting it.
That would have been so great.
I know. You should have texted me. Okay, this is amazing. This would revolutionize the way that I represent myself as talent. And I'm so excited about this. And I'm wondering how you came up with this idea.
Well, it wasn't just me. It's Evan as well, so I don't want to take any of that. And really, this came from sitting at an event someplace where someone had an idea that I thought was only half-baked. And in my head, this could go so much bigger. And so Evan and I collaborate on it. And Evan is the brains and the genius behind where the technology is going. And I'm just kind of saddling up and going for a ride and just doing this stuff, which is my talent.
Well, it was amazing because you're like, oh, and it can do this and do this and do this. And I was like, Dropbox can do that? You're like, Dropbox cannot do that. And I was like, okay, yeah. It's difficult for me to keep up with this part and also the others. So like this will make it really easy. And these will be like
seamless.
Yeah, and then you don't have to like, you see influencers creating content. They're spending a lot of time on it.
Yes, correct.
So what is the process of this like pretty fast?
I mean, essentially the idea is you go in, you say, let's take an influencer as a perspective. Hey, I want to do a 20-second shot with this brand. What's the best thing to do? And they'll say, collect these 5 photos, this video. You do it, combines it. Okay, I want to put on TikTok. Great, go, TikTok.
That's amazing. That's
So
amazing. Yeah, really cool. Okay, questions from the audience for James. Yes. So how long till you can do that for PubTalk? Great question.
6 to 8 weeks. I'm just kidding. Evan hates when I do that. Evan hates when I do that. Near future.
Near future, yes.
So is the person always entering something in about the event?
So is the person always entering in something about the event?
And I'm using the event word very loosely. It could be, but yes. So initially the idea is that you're going to tell the system what you're trying to capture. And then it basically does the rest from there. It just asks you a couple questions back. says, are these the key people? Who's important? Is there anything I need to know? Great. Here are the 3 scenes, if you will, or 2 scenes or 1 scene, whatever you tell it, it will create that and say, here are the moments you want to capture.
It's like a director for
Yeah,
creating
totally,
content on your
100%.
mobile phone.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so cool. Okay, another
Yeah.
question.
Follow-up was to that was when you said giving everyone the best memories, and obviously that's very independent, right?
100%.
So it's good to know that this is where the human will always be a part of this experience because
Yeah.
that is what makes it truly a unique set of
Yeah.
their story.
So she's just pointing out that this really, as long as the human is still involved, that's actually what really quantifies that these are your best memories.
Correct. And I think the other aspect of this that maybe I glazed over really quick is the collaboration, the ability of getting multiple perspectives. Often our memory, and so just by background, I have a PhD in consumer psychology. I've studied the human behavior for a pretty long time. Our memories are awful. Like, they're just awful, right? We comprise them in a ways that make sense for us, but getting a multiple perspective view on an event gives you a richer, deeper sense of what that event really meant to everybody.
That is beautiful. Yes. Yes.
Talina.
What are the privacy considerations?
So, I think that at least our philosophy as an organization is more in line with kind of the Apple philosophy of like really high privacy. They have a lot of choice of what they're going to share and not share, and they have to opt into a lot of this process as they go. But I think that where technology is going, and the generation beneath us, the Gen Zs, they're a little bit more open about it, so they're a little bit less concerned because like, you already know about, you already have my fingerprints, who the hell cares, right? So it's a very different generation, but we take it very seriously. We think that's obviously going to be a major thing as we grow. We want to make sure that we have that in place.
Yes. Yes, you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she is, just have a thought that this could really be an interesting addition to the journalism space. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I think, the struggle with any startup is figuring out what lane you want to go in first. And so we're very clear that our first objective is to maximize storytelling. We know, we actually initially started going down the wedding route. And the opportunity is very much there. We did a lot of legwork early on. But the challenge that we see that is to collect all the data from all the individuals that are in the wedding. It takes about 15 months from start to finish. And in a sporting event, you're talking about 3 to 4 months. And so it's a much more compressed time frame to collect all of that data, the millions of bits of data, in a much faster. But we also recognize there are oodles of opportunities in many different verticals.
By God, Dr. James Kelly, I think you've invented the printing press. This is really something special, I think. Well, I know we have lots more questions, so connect with James after the talk. Thank you for being here. This is so cool. Yeah. We are frickin' killing it tonight, are we not? This is so good. Okay, tonight's next company update is sponsored by TDS, a proud supporter of EDCO and PubTalk events and values being a part of the Central Oregon business community. TDS offers high-speed internet, phone, and TV, providing connectivity and integrating all your favorite streaming video services for both home and business. Since TDS acquired Ben Broadband 10 years ago, roughly $100 million in infrastructure investments have been made across Central Oregon, future-proofing connectivity needs, as well as ensuring the most advanced technology and network available. Their fiber optic network continues to expand through new business and residential construction projects to keep up with our rapidly growing community and its technology demands. As a pillar of TDS's core values, over the same 10 years, TDS has given back nearly $1 million to charitable partners such as the Giving Plate, Boys and Girls Club, the Humane Society Family Access Network, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, Latino Community Association, and several other great charitable organizations providing local impact. Please go to hellotds.com for further details. Next up, we will hear from Luann Abrams, founder of CEOX. Luann Abrams is a partner in the Abrams Group, advising, investing, and supporting the people, companies, and causes that will leave it better. Prior to starting CEOX, she ran an early stage venture fund with a dedicated mentorship program in Bend. Luann has a background in aerospace engineering and spent most of her 15 years at startup Columbia Aircraft, where she oversaw the certification of several aircraft models and ensured that all designs met applicable regulations. Due to her diligence and integrity, she was granted the authority to sign off on regulatory compliance on behalf of the FAA prior to aircraft delivery. In 2017, she was inducted into the International Air and Space Hall of Fame as part of the Golden Eagles flight team. Please help me welcome Luann.
Thank you for getting me out of my house where I have become entirely too comfortable these days. So 4 years ago, I had been involved in venture capital, and I just got to see up close and personal how broken venture is for women on many different levels. And one of the things I kept seeing was that it was not uncommon for founders to be replaced through the growth cycle of their companies. And every single time I watched this happen, it was a man given that CEO role, including when it was a women's healthcare platform for tracking your fertility. And yes, up jumps a white man as the new CEO. And I was mad at that point. I just thought it was so ridiculous. I knew so many amazing qualified women. Why were they not being considered for these roles? And so digging in, what I found is that there's a lot of bias issues at play, but the overpowering one is that it's not uncommon that men are hired on potential and women are hired on what they've accomplished already. So it's an obvious catch-22 with women that if you have not been a CEO, then you're not going to be considered for that CEO role. The other thing that I found is that, especially at the smaller and mid-sized venture funds, they're not hiring executive recruiters who do have the potential to at least give diverse candidates and find them. They tend to go into their networks. So you get, as you know, venture is very male-dominated. You get a bunch of men going into their networks. And I mean literally scrolling through their LinkedIn and finding, what are they going to find there? People just like themselves. And it happens over and over again. And so the idea was CEOX. I was going to go out and find these women and make it very easy to connect to the VCs when they are in these positions where they're needing to find a new CEO for their company. And you know, there's a lot of reasons to be focused here. There is a lot of data showing that women-led companies are going to make you as an investor more money. So why they don't do a better job of doing this, I don't know. Women-led companies generate more revenue. They use invested dollars to better effect. They exit on average a year earlier. And my favorite statistic of all is that women have happier employees. And I just think about what this world would be like with more happy people running around. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons to be doing this. So I really think of CEOX as three things. First of all, there's the placement and actually connecting these women to CEO roles. There is the community aspect. I have just under 1,000 CEOX candidates currently, and bringing all of these high-level women together has been just really profound. There's a lot of collaboration that comes from it. There are jobs that are placed from it. Whenever a woman needs help with something, advice, referrals, there's this huge community to do it. And then, of course, the advocacy and bringing awareness to a lot of these issues that are out there. So that is what I do. And you heard I'm an engineer by trade, and I am very happy sitting behind a computer all day and not talking to anyone, which is not very conducive to my job, where I talk to people all day long. And so I got to a point at the beginning of this year where I'm like, this is the time where the founder brings in a CEO. And that is where I am now. Of course, the first place I went into was the CEOX network. And I said, I need somebody who is going to have business development background, that loves sales and marketing and knows what to do there. And I am in process of hiring my own CEO now, and that is my community update.
My first question is, are you hiring for any other roles, Luann? Because, wow, this is so amazing. What's been the most surprising thing for you as you've undertaken this?
That there are a lot of freaking amazing, talented, smart women out there. And I mean, I knew that really, but when I get to talk to them on a daily basis, I'm just like, and then the other thing that is a little not as happy as that is that, I tell a story about walking into my first business meeting. I worked at a very large aircraft company. I walked in, I was introduced around, and one of the men said in full voice to the others, "Wow, she has great legs." Wow. And that was my first business experience. And I would like to say that doesn't happen anymore. And the one thing I can tell you from these conversations is that kind of stuff happens today. And that's what I think we need to be really mindful of. It's gotten better. It is still alive and well.
Yeah, I can confirm. Okay, questions from the crowd? Yes. She's followed you for years.
You've been a great supporter. Thank you.
Yeah, I have this question too. The data is overwhelming, so why isn't it speaking? Why isn't it being responded to appropriately?
Good question. I've actually asked some people this question, and one of the responses I've received is that we simply don't believe it. So there's that.
That's so cute.
But, I think that most people connect with others that are like themselves. And when you are hiring for a big role like CEO, you need to feel comfortable with that hire. You can't just go off data. You want to feel comfortable. And unfortunately, feeling comfortable with someone does not indicate great leadership. You don't necessarily want to have beers with your next CEO. You don't necessarily want to have beers with your president. It's two very different things. And so if you can at least overcome that within yourself and be aware that comfort, that confidence, there's no correlation, as you know, between confidence and being a good leader, but you're more likely to hire a person that comes across as very confident. So, I think the biggest thing we can do is really be self-reflective and look at what our biases are and know what they are. I'm fairly confident I know what my biases are. I think about them. I reflect on a regular basis about, why did that person, kind of feel off to me? And was it because they really I should be aware of something bad about that person, or is it a bias? And I think that through those things, and I think all of us as leaders need to be doing that.
Yeah, well said. I'm sure you see this a lot too, because the other thing we can give the opportunity, but we have to make sure that we're putting that person in a safe for them working environment, right? So you can put someone in the position, but if they aren't respected and the work around them, the staff around them aren't supportive and on board with that, that's not going to work.
And I've made that mistake in this role. it happens a lot when you have founders that are sometimes replacing themselves. And I had one situation where it was 3 founders. They wanted a CEO, and really, in the end, they wanted somebody to do all the work, but they wanted to be in the background telling her what to do. It did not work out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. Yes.
Bruce, white male here.
Thanks for joining us.
I was more curious how you're maybe recruiting, or how are you going after businesses? How are you finding businesses? How are you taking it from your network of all these wonderful women, and how do you find the right companies? What is that middle bridge process?
This is a great question. Yeah, how are you going out and finding the companies? How are you recruiting? How are you going beyond your network and building it out? I love this question.
Yes, and thank you for that. So I started, so it's 2 sides. First, I have to find the women, and then the companies. So finding the women started, I started emailing executives, high-level successful CEOs and C-suite individuals, and saying, who have you worked with that would make a great CEO? Send her my way. And so all of the women that are in CEOX have been referred by a successful senior leader. So that's how I find them.
Are those senior leaders also male, or are they male?
Both. Both, yeah.
Were those people that were already in your network, or you're just trying to go and...
No, I mean, that's where I started, right? It was, for me, it was baby steps. I started with my network. Ray was one of the first people I emailed saying, hey, it was scary for me to do, but everybody wanted to help. I got lots of people. Now at this point, I don't have to actively ask anymore, but I do. So anybody here that wants to nominate women in their network, please send them my way. But so that's the leader side. And then I mostly do outreach to VCs. I already had a pretty big network of VCs because I had been investing in that and working in that already. But I do a lot of just outreach to VCs on LinkedIn. I tend to reach out to women VCs because they see this problem. They're acutely aware of it. And then for every VC, they have numerous portfolio companies. So, it's not like this CEO replacement happens to every company, but if you're a VC that has, say, 20 to 25 portfolio companies, it's probably something you address once a year at least. And you might also be helping them find board roles or COO roles too. So I can work with all of those.
That's great. Okay, yes.
So that actually begs the question, do you try to also recruit for the other C-suite? Because you just said for board.
Yeah,
So
do you...
even though it's called CEOX, I'm sorry, you're just repeating.
Yeah. Do you also recruit for the entire C-suite in addition to CEOs?
Yes. I like to keep that focus, though, on CEOs, so I talk about it because that's really where the problem lies, and I think the solution to more diversity in companies also lies in getting more women in CEO roles. To my knowledge, I'm the only company that focuses on getting women in CEOs. There's been a huge surge of amazing groups that focus on getting women on boards. Super important, but we need women leading companies to really see these benefits.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, one more in the back.
So kind of tying back to maybe the earlier more philosophical part of the conversation, but also tying to boards. Having been in corporate America for 20 years, I guess one of the things that I think is an underlying root cause of the problem is what is valued, right? And if it's typically a male workforce at that C-suite level, then they're deciding what is valued, and then they're deciding then who comes in and what's valued. And so if the board is then making the decision on the CEO, then it backs up even further. And so I guess I'm curious on what your perspective is on that dynamic of what's valued
Yeah, so this is a great question. She's been in corporate America for 20 years, and she is reflecting on this decision to choose a CEO is often based on what is valued. And if you have a very heavy male-dominated C-suite, what is valued may not be what you are proposing to put in place. And she's just wondering about that dynamic and what you're doing about it.
I try to bring awareness to this. I mean, this is not an easy problem to solve. I wish I could just say, hey, everybody, listen to what I said. Trust me on this. It will get better. But it's just not the reality of the situation. And so I think as we learn more, as we see more evidence, as we see more role models, the idea of what is valued is changing slowly, certainly not fast enough. But there are vast structural changes in business that have to be done in order to get where we want to be.
Yeah, and that self-reflection piece is critical. Yeah, thank you. I have one follow-up question. So what is your capacity? Because I have a feeling like we all know a lot of people we want to send your way. So what does that look like, and how do we get you these people, and how many can you take? How big is the bus, Luann?
I know. So CEOX is really just me. So there's that. But I do, I make time. I have an onboarding conversation with every woman that is sent my way. I sometimes have helpers that have those conversations, but in general, it is me. And I assure you, I can handle anybody you send my way.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, I know that we still have a lot of questions for you, so please connect with Luann. Follow her on LinkedIn, connect with her on LinkedIn, support this business. This is amazing. Thank you so much, and I hope you'll come back and give us an update soon. Killer lineup, my friend. So we have a couple of events coming up for you. Made in Redmond Tour, June 14th. June PubTalk, June 27th. So meet us back here. Journey in Exporting on July 9th. EDCO's annual meeting on July 11th. And of course, PubTalk on the road. We head to Sisters, July 25th. It's so much fun. Do not miss it. I want to also invite you. We have 2 more days of our first gallery show for the Casey Anseth Legacy Foundation at Scale House Collaborative for the Arts. We are granting local artists, Central Oregon artists. It's incredible. We'd love for you to check the show out. It's beautiful, and what we're doing is really exciting. So please take a peek. They're open 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow and Saturday. And then I'm going to say thank you to Worthy Brewing for hosting us. Big thanks to Hand in Hand Productions for making it fancy. I'm Shannon Kelly. I'm so happy to be here with you tonight, and I'll see you in a month.